Supreme Magus, Chapter 94, Dimensional Magic. The following morning, Lid and Floria were taking a small walk before picking up the rest of the team for breakfast. Descending from a long line of mage knights, Floria had more experience with swords, and since she had to attend only one specialization course, she was his main teacher between the two girls. That allowed them to spend quite some time together, since both of them had free afternoons to practice swordsmanship. Actually, Floria sometimes needed to cram at night to catch up with her studies, but it was something she gladly did. She would have not given up the weekend lessons about first magic for the world. Besides, once she managed to get to know him better, she really enjoyed his company. The same went for Lid. Up to that point, she was his favorite. Floria was mature and level-headed, speaking her mind so often that sometimes she came out rude. She also had various interests and hobbies, making her able to talk about almost every topic, not only about magic or court life. Lid enjoyed their talks, learning about the New World mentality and non-written society rules. Having lived most of his new life in a small village, Lid could learn more from one of her anecdotes than from an entire book. That day Floria wore her long black hair down, making them dance in her face every time she turned her head suddenly. "Why are you still growing your hair?" Lid asked. "I thought that having them short was more convenient for a fighter." "Yeah, you got that right. But during the last break, my mother kept nagging me about not being feminine enough. She said if I cut it even shorter, people would mistake me for a boy." "What a load of nonsense," she grumbled. Lid could only keep silent, inwardly agreeing with her mother. Floria was very tall, even more than most professors, and she still had plenty of time to grow further. She also had wide shoulders and enough strength to easily lift him, like during the mock exam. "What do you think about it?" she asked abruptly. "That I hope she didn't phrase it so cruelly, but I have to give it to her that you are prettier this way." Lid dodged the question with a compliment. "Of course not. My mother is of noble origin. She would never be so straightforward. She just pointed out how hard it is to find suitors for me, adding how scared she is at the idea that our bloodline would die with me and all that." "I thought you had siblings." Lid raised an eyebrow at such arguments. He clearly remembered that her parents had 3 children. "I do," and when I pointed it out, she replied with the bogus theory that women are more likely to pass down a greater degree of magic. At that point, I gave up. You know parents. You are always on the losing side of any discussion. Lid nodded, not knowing what to say. No one had ever tried to control that aspect of his life. "While we are at it, you do know that Quilla has it bad for you, right?" Yes, he actually suspected that Quilla was developing a crush, but he hoped that with time and not giving her special attention, it would pass. He did not want to openly reject her and hurt her feelings. "Yet I don't understand why." "Well, she's an orphan. She clearly has daddy issues, and between your big brother and drill sergeant vibes, I'd say you make the ideal candidate." "But why me and not one of the professor or something? I mean, I'm nothing special, just tall, good-looking, talented, and caring." Floria cut him short. "You are right, it's complete mystery." Lid glared at her in innocence. "That's not funny. Stop ruffling my feathers." "Well, right now I have to take back the good-looking and caring part. With that face, you are creepy." Lid's expression returned to normal. "Much better. By the way, I would keep an eye on Freya too. It would not surprise me if her family sent her after you. Talented magicians with no family name are much sought after. Please, I'm just a fourth-year student, Lid scoffed. It's too soon for that kind of shenanigans. Nah, you are still too naive. It's the perfect moment to start an approach to develop in the future without seeming too desperate or interested. During the fifth year would be too late. One needs an edge over the competition. It's not like they are going to make you marry after all. If you do not live up to their expectation, they can always back off at any moment. That makes sense. Lid furrowed his brow, thinking about the unexpected problem. Thanks for the heads up. You're welcome. But to be honest, you should thank my father. It's only when he asked me if I would mind a younger spouse that I realized what was happening. Lid was afraid to ask the question, but he did anyway. What did you reply to him? After stressing out that I don't mind a small age gap, don't get me wrong, I don't want to end up marrying someone much older than me. I said that I would consider it. No reply was the only reply. If I said yes, he would have sent my mother to make me change my mind. If I said no, he would have probably started arranging our marriage. He is kind of bullheaded. I see. He tried to keep his poker face, but unconsciously took a step away from her. Don't overestimate yourself, short stuff. She laughed at his move. I am my own woman. I may bend on many things for my parents' sake, but love is not one of those. If they try to force me, I'm ready to become independent after graduation. If I keep my grades as they are, people will line up to hire me. From that point, they walked in silence until they knocked on Quilla's door. During breakfast, everyone expressed their curiosity about the new lessons and their professor, making bets about their looks. Lid sneaked a look at Freya from time to time, and only when he realized that nothing had changed, he managed to put his paranoia to rest. Because dimensional magic was a compulsory course, it took place in the fourth-year lecture class. As soon as the last gong rang, Professor Rudd walked in. He was a tall man, about 1.78 high, with gray streaked black hair and ice-cold blue eyes. He was in his mid-50s, wearing the robe open and revealing a slim build. Aside from Professor Vaster, he was the oldest teacher Lid had ever met. Good morning, dear students. He spoke like he had poison spitting out his mouth. I'm Professor Kavas Rod, and I'll teach you dimensional magic. As you can see, I'm not one of those hot-stuffed children that our beloved headmaster Lin just placed in the academy. I'm one of the remnants of the old guard, one of those that allegedly find a waste of resources to teach magic to those that do not belong to mage bloodlines or at least noble families. At those words, Lid, Quilla, and Freya took out their ballot, placing it on their desk. After one too many practical joke, Freya had decided to follow Quilla's advice and got her freedom back. Being noble, that speech wasn't addressed to her, but she still wanted to prove her point. Freya wasn't scared of putting herself on the line for her friends. Rude continued like he didn't see anything, despite the three of them were sitting in front lines. Even in such hypothetical scenario, though, I would still be professional, capable of leaving his prejudice outside the door. I expect you of doing the same. All the commoner students didn't believe a word he said. Many started regretting not having a guilty ballot. Dimensional magic is a complex and deep subject, so do not expect of getting rid of me after just 3 months. My class is where we will separate true mages from simple birds. Even a magico can fly, but only a mage can do this. After a quick wave of the hand, a hushed word, Ruth disappeared from the back of the class near the chalkboard, reappearing in front of the first row of students. His hands never stopped. Before they could even grasp, he had already disappeared, materializing with his feet on the second row desk, making a full round of class before returning back to the point of origin. This spell is called blink, one of the most common battle uses of dimensional magic. It's particularly useful to battle mages and mage knights to push forwards since they use weapons, but everyone can use it to escape in a pinch. Just to be clear, I didn't use any artifact, just my skills. If you are capable of doing this by the end of the course, you will never pass it. The good news is that failing my class will not prevent you from graduating. Just mark your failure as mages. He smirked, looking at the student's worried face. A hand rose up from the middle row. What? I still have to begin explaining and you already have a question? I wonder how you got admitted here. Nevertheless, speak freely. Are you going to teach us teleportation? Asked the red-haired chubby boy. Professor Rudd broke out in loud laughter, full of contempt and amazement. Most of the students understood that he wasn't laughing at the question, but at the boy himself. Teleportation! I haven't heard that word in years. It's a withered branch of magic, whose only success was to get the world rid of all the idiots that practice it.